Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amherst Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut League of History Organizations. I want to welcome you all to our Connecticut Collections information session this afternoon. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We've got about 80 people signed up and like 50 people in here live. So I just want to let everybody know that this will be recorded. And I'm going to hand things over quickly. Actually, let me introduce everyone who's here before we get going. I introduced myself. I want to introduce our Connecticut Collections staff, Diane Lee and Dana Meyer, who basically run the project here with the League. And also with us today is Emily Garfinkel, who is our membership and programs manager here at CLHO. And she's going to say a few words about some things that we have upcoming before we get into the meat of our program today.
Great. Thank you so much, Amherst. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to do a brief introduction on behalf of the programs here at the League, because this is just one of many exciting programs that are ongoing, and we have some upcoming ones that for everyone to be aware of as well. So I just very quickly, before we started, just wanted to showcase some of our upcoming events that you all can expect. You should receive, for those of you on our mailing list, I'm assuming most of you are, you will be receiving upcoming notices of these events that will be virtual in the coming month or so. Actually coming up this week on Wednesday at 11 o'clock on Zoom, we're going to have part 2 of the Preparing for the 250th in Connecticut. I assume that at least a couple of you have gone to the first program that was hosted a couple weeks ago by Cindy Tolosa at Connecticut Humanities. So this is just a follow-up to that conversation. And again, that's upcoming this coming Wednesday at 11 o'clock on Zoom. If you have any questions about registering for that, you can let me know, but it has been announced and it should be in everybody's inbox. Also coming up later this month, it will be a 2-part session for intro to NEH grants. It has not been formally posted yet. We're still kind of finalizing some of the admin stuff on that, but be on the lookout for that event, which will get sent to you all as soon as it is available to register. Also from Connecticut Humanities coming up on October 3rd at noon, it will be Grant Writing 101 with Connecticut Humanities as a follow-up to their previous program that we hosted, which was Intro to Connecticut Humanities Grants and sort of understanding the grant process with them. So this will be more of a practical session in response to that on knowing how to best write your grant and having some advice from their grants team. All of our previous programs are uploaded on our YouTube channel, so feel free to browse. I will also link it here in the chat so that you folks can browse through at your leisure. And if there are any past programs that you were unable to attend that you're interested in, I encourage you to do so. We try to make our programs as accessible as possible for folks who are unable to attend when it is live. So I will send you those links there. I will just wrap up really quickly by saying on the membership front of things, Connecticut Collections is a program featured for League members. I can address more of that later, or if it's brought up during the presentation, that's fine too. But it is a program that is available for our League membership, and it sort of they go hand in hand with each other. So I'm more than happy to follow up with all of you on that front. If you're not currently a League member, but you definitely want to partake in Connecticut Collections, I can help you get the process started. Or for those of you, maybe you were a past League member and you've had a change in leadership and you're not sure if your membership is still active, I'm more than happy to work with you to make sure that everybody's on board and that we can get you back active, since it kind of goes hand in hand with one another. So again, I'll put some of my contact info in the chat. You can also email membership@clho.org, or I'll put in my direct email if you want to get in touch with me with that. So again, on behalf of the programs here at the League, I just want to thank all of you for coming today and be on the lookout for some more exciting and enriching programs for everyone. And I'll wrap up my piece and I'll hand it over to Diane Lee, who will kick off the program. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's great to see so many people from various parts of the state. It's really awesome. And we have people out of state, too, that are coming to look for some ideas, which is great as well. basically what we're going to do is go over what Connecticut Collections is, what it can do for you, how to join, that kind of thing. So just a little bit of the advantages of our system and why we think it's so awesome, what the pricing and the cost is for that, with some of our current initiatives that we're working on with other institutions in the state, which is really, really interesting. We're getting really widespread and wide reach with everybody. How you can get involved, and then we're going to leave some time at the end for any questions that you have. If you think of anything as you go, please feel free to pop it in the chat. We've got a couple of us monitoring it, so we may come back and just answer some of those at the end. You can go next, Amros. Or do I have control too? Nope. Oh, there we go. So what is Connecticut Collections? A collaborative project of the Connecticut League of History Organizations, soon to be the Connecticut League of Museums. It's kind of a three-part thing you're getting. You're not just getting a database, you're getting some added bells and whistles to this as well. First and foremost, and why the project was started, is we are a collections management system. We want to be able to make everybody have the accessibility to track their collections on a computer system that's going to be easy to use, relatively inexpensive, and just give you that extra benefit of having stuff recorded for anybody to look up and see within your institution, as opposed to, just old Ned in the corner knows everything about the institution and about the collections. And if he goes to Tahiti for a week, then nobody knows what's going on. We want to get all of his knowledge, all of everybody's knowledge into the computer, into the system, so you can have it for your own reference, and also share it to the public if you want. So the next point of online public portal, we do offer public portal that includes everybody all in one page, one web page. So for the actual collections management system, the database part, you get your own instance that you will be, and we'll talk more about this later too, that is just your institution. But if you choose to make things public and want to put it on the web, it goes into the ConnecticutCollections.org webpage where everybody is kind of put together. We also offer digital preservation in the realm of partnering with the Connecticut Digital Archive. We've been working with them for years, and they're in the midst of upgrading their system. For those of you who haven't been working with them, they're doing a huge, major, I'm just going to say upgrade. They're kind of revamping everything. So once they are done with that, we're going to get our connector back in place, so you will be able to have your digital media uploaded to the CTDA and preserved there for you. So you'll be able to get and retrieve that. Plus, it'll be another point of access for anybody that wants to share it online. Some of the people that are involved in the state, our list is growing. It's kind of huge. We were looking at this slideshow earlier and we may have to go to a page 2 next year with all this. So
I think we'll just put a number or like
maybe
some kind of breakdown.
I'll go back to the map.
It was like half this many last year. So
yeah.
You can see the incredible growth that we've been experiencing lately. And that's why we're so gratified to see so many of you around the virtual table here today.
We're up to about 50 members right now. We're still onboarding some groups from the last cohort, but we're about 50 at the moment. Next year, we'll put the map back up, so you'll just be able to see like all the pretty dots all over the screen of where everybody is, rather than trying to read through all the names. So when I say collections management system, it's there to manage what you have, to know where it is and what it is. It's built on a collective access platform. That's one of the many systems and things that are out there for people to be able to manage their collections. Some people just do it in like an Excel database, a spreadsheet, or Google Sheets. You may have FileMaker, you may have Past Perfect, there's TMS available. There's many, many options for being able to manage your system. It goes a little bit further than just a spreadsheet, because it is more than just a plain database. And you can go to the next slide, Amos. when you have something like Excel or Google Sheets, it will work for you. It's perfectly serviceable. But it's the collection of data that's just stored, everybody knows, in like the rows and the columns, and it relies on you to sort and relate the records to each other to make sure you have the right columns in the right places and the right information, and that everything's filled in, and you can do a search for one person and come up with a number of records, and that's about it. Collections management system is more of a relational database. So it's got a bunch of little pods of different bits of information. So you have all this information about your objects in one place, and it's got another little pod of information about your people and organizations related to your system. So if you're in doing your cataloging in your system and you're cataloging all of these dresses and you want to connect it to Miss Bessie Jennings, all you have to do is put Miss Bessie Jennings in. Once she has her own record in your system, you're not getting screwed up by people entering the information in different ways or misspellings or things like that. So you'll be able to also, if you decide, oh, I know we have a lot of stuff from Miss Bessie Jennings, let me look, rather than trying to remember all the stuff that she gave you, you can go to her record and then see what's related to her. So it'll show all of the things that she gave you, all of the things that she owned, things like that. So it gives you more control over searching over various aspects of your collection and in a more easy to use, easy to see setup. We'll get more into that more because I have a couple of screenshots too, but we're going to go into some of the advantages of why you might want to look at this. Oh, and let me say, because I don't think we get into it. Oh, we do get into it. I'm going to let you guys do this first and I'll be back in a second. So we're going to go to Dana for this.
So you all are interested, obviously, in Connecticut Collections. So what are some of the advantages of joining? So it's not just it's web-based, which is really important. It's cloud and web-based. So it allows you to access and manage your collection from anywhere with an internet connection. That can be, it's preferable on like a laptop, but you could use it, and Diane will admit to this, she's used it on a tablet or a phone before. It can be viewed that way, and data can be inputted that way. And it can be many users all at the same time using it. You could be using it from home. Again, this is all very important, managing your collection. Sometimes you can't always be on site. It's open source, so it's built on an open source code. So you can go online right now and find it. I'll put the link in later if you guys are interested. Anybody out there likes the data back end of things, but it's all open source and it's featured on GitHub. And internationally, people use it. So it's customized by our team. So like a lot of us here, or a lot of the people that are members already have the input into Connecticut Collections, and it has already been customized and changed over time to suit your needs. You can also share your collections alongside other people online. You make it visible with other people throughout Connecticut. All those members you saw that are public facing, you can be on the public portal and people can find you through searches, filtered searches just for your institution. So anybody who's doing research, they can stumble across your collections. As I said right there, it's searchable. So you can have advanced searches, word searches, and/or searches, isolated searches. So it's really quite amazing and powerful. You can be discovered through the CTDA, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So they automatically populate to the CTDA. That connector is going to be working again this fall. And then it's also the hubs of the DPLA, which we'll get into as well. As far as digital preservation, that's part of the discoverability and the preservation we talked about earlier. So there's long-term preservation for all your collection items through the CTDA, whether you're public or not. And many of the fields that we have in Connecticut Collections are always kept like private for like donor information, notes information. That stuff is kept private even in CTDA, which is important to know. And again, like we have affordable pricing. So annual fees are not, they're not set in stone. Like, some places are a la carte. The more you add, the more it costs. We have one set fee, which are based and determined on a sliding scale based on your budget, your organization's budget. So there's no hidden costs. So as we mentioned in the previous slide, it runs on collective access, which again is open source. It's a collection management system and a presentation software program that's used by museums, libraries, archives, and it's used internationally. There's a consortium in Minnesota and then also in Canada that uses it sort of the way we are using it, and we talk with them often so we can systems, and it's kind of a great community for us. So it's cloud-based, web-based, access anywhere, internet, not dependent on physical equipment. So there's no limit on your users, and that's another common thing with other competitors, right? It's always the cost goes up with more users usually, and it's usually limited to like one machine if not web-based. No big purchase or technical support price compared to other systems. So all your tech support is run by pretty much Diane and I. It used to be just Diane, and we try to troubleshoot here. We usually get back to you pretty quickly too, even on Sundays and holiday weekends, quite often. But it's really important the system is running for you all, and you know, it's kind of our priority rather. And we will get in touch with other tech people if it goes above us and we need more help. So that's all on our end. It has an online presentation component, like public portal. So again, it's searchable. You can show all of your friends and relatives, like where you volunteer at or what you have in your collection. So it's great for show and tell. Again, it's has an automatic data backup. So we have like it's in the cloud, it's saved in one area, and then we also have backup to that cloud, and then we also have the CTDA for the preservation. So there's lots your data, and you always own your data. It's always yours. So if you ever need it or want it, like we don't own it. So it's good to know. And it's backed up, so it's not going anywhere. It's customizable and flexible. So we work directly with the developer to respond to all of your needs. And we do ask you several times a year, like, you know, we have open discussions about what could be better or what maybe we don't use as frequently as we thought we would. So it's really designed around your needs. And then again, no call to distant tech support hotlines. You just email us. So those are all the benefits.
Thanks, Dana. I just want to underscore that last point too, which I think is really important. One of the things that we have been able to do and are able to do even better now with Dana on board, you know, with two folks supporting the project, is that we provide ongoing education for everyone. There are monthly Zoom office hours that you can just drop into, where Dana and Diane go over more advanced features of the system. You know, we're not here to make a buck. We're here to support the ongoing sustainability of the project and the staff that work on it, and the you know, the work that we do with the developer. So we're not trying to make a huge, you know, profit here. The idea is to break even and to, you know, participate in supporting digital cultural heritage in Connecticut. And I think that, you know, our staff are quite amazing and responsive and knowledgeable, and really are there to serve you, our user community. It's not something you're necessarily going to get from a software company.
And if you're wondering what you're going to see if you get this and what your back end looks like and how easy it is to learn, this is an example here of what you'll see when you go into a record. We cover basically all types of records. Primarily, people are putting in objects right now. We have the capability to do archives and manuscripts, and we have had that all the way along, and Amherst is going to talk a little bit more about that later as well. But it does cover a bunch of different types of things. So things like Past Perfect will, you know, have an archive section, an object section. We work a little differently than that, the way our system is. But in general, when you log on and you look at your record, this is where you're going to see. It's a pretty straightforward form that you're filling out. It just there's no tricky like extra fields, things like that. There's a couple pages to go through. There's the standard object identifier, title, date, descriptions, all that kind of stuff. If you have an image, you'll see the image on the side. Very simple, very straightforward. I've learned systems before that were great and I loved them, but the learning curve was pretty rough and it took a while to get done. There is also the opportunity to do, if you've got a lot of volunteers who are a little, you know, wary of stuff like this and they don't want to learn something that they feel is overly complicated, we can do little customized entry sheets. So if the only thing you want your volunteers to be doing is, I want them to put in the title and the date and who gave it to us, we can do like a little custom screen for you to do that. So, and that's no extra cost. That's just extra help from me and Dana, basically. So anything that we can do to help you guys integrate this more into your world and help yourselves out, and make your jobs easier in the end. You can go to the next one. So the whole customization of this was determined by a bunch of museum professionals in the state when we first put this project together back in 2015. They had a lot of input into fields that they wanted included, the extra bells and whistles that they wanted included, how to have it look, and things like that. So, you know, it's down to little things like you can do a lightbox view and see all these pictures together, and it helps you out creating exhibitions to see how stuff goes together. And there's a lot of even little tweaks and customizations that you can do yourself when looking at like reports, searches, putting groups of objects together in sets that we do a lot. If we're putting together an exhibition, we want to do something on shoes, so I can group all of my shoes together, so I can just do a quick search and they'll all come up together. It's, like I said, pretty straightforward as far as looks. It's very clean. It's very understandable. There's not a lot of really like tricky museum lingo in there necessarily. You know, some of the drop-down fields are pretty straightforward. You know, it's date donated, owner, previous owner of an object, things like that, that you can link them together. You can go to the next one, Iris. And were you starting the portal or was I starting the portal?
I can talk about it, sure.
Okay.
So one of the things so Diane's kind of given you a little preview of what the back end of the system, right? And as she mentioned earlier, there is both the individual instance, your relational database, your collections management system that's just for your institution. But one of the things that we're really proud about and think is quite important about Connecticut Collections is it is a way for you to meaningfully make your collections discoverable by the broader public, not just here in Connecticut, but across the country and around the world. And we do this through our public portal, which you can visit and explore at ctcollections.org. We're particularly excited this year because for many years, we had kind of a provisional public portal that was built as a part of the initial pilot of the project. Thanks to some generous funding that we received both from Connecticut Humanities and from the National Historical Publications and Records Commission of the National Archives, we have rebuilt our public portal, and it launched earlier this spring. It's beautiful. It has increased functionality, much more sophisticated searching options, and the ability to really properly display archival finding aids for your collections within the system. And this is something that I also want to mention about Connecticut Collections that I think is pretty special, which is that it gives you the ability to, in accordance with best practices in both the museum and archival fields, to manage your object collections and your unpublished manuscript and archival collections together in one system, and to do it well. This was something that we knew when we were launching this project initially, that our institutions have both of these kinds of collections. Most small museums around the state do have both objects and archival materials, and they didn't want to have to be working in two different databases to manage them. So that's just an advantage that I wanted to mention that we haven't called out yet. I invite you to explore the public portal, but we're really excited about its new look and feel and its better functionality. I think we'll get back to this later, but I think one of the real advantages of Connecticut Collections is that consortium feature. The fact that your collections, when you make them public, are discoverable alongside other Connecticut collecting institutions around the state in a place that researchers are more likely to go, a content aggregator, than to necessarily go to your individual website. And that increases the discoverability of your institution and your collections, and will hopefully drive people to your doorstep as well. Is there anything anybody else wants to say about the portal? We're just super jazzed about it.
No, go on and try it out. It's really cool. Just we set it up so there's a bunch, if you go on there and you're like, I don't know what to search for, we set it up with a bunch of little keyword links on the bottom. So when you click on those, it'll automatically search for that term. So you can kind of see, and then it gets you started and you can see where to go from there. But just go on and look around. We're very happy with the way it turned out. There's a couple more little bells and whistles we want them to finish, but it's so much better than it used to be. So we're very excited about that, just to have it look nicer, function nicer, much better all the way around.
Yeah, I'm realizing with all my overlays, I can't even see the title of the slide. This is about the CTDA. So I talked about being a part of a consortium and the work that we do on the back end to basically help you, especially those of you at smaller institutions who, may not have a bunch of paid staff, to help you do what is best practice in digital cultural heritage, basically. So we partner with the Connecticut Digital Archive, which is based at the University of Connecticut in their libraries. Every state in the country has a statewide digital repository, essentially. If you are old-fashioned like me and remember like government document repositories at university libraries and things like that, where every time a government publication was issued, a copy would be sent to that repository. This is kind of like the same thing, but for digital preservation. The idea that the CTDA is a place to aggregate digital cultural heritage in the state of Connecticut. And digital preservation, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, is basically like ensuring that any digital representations of, your museum collections, of your archival collections, we're talking photographs, audio, video, metadata, that's the information about each piece in your collection, shall we say. That stuff can degrade over time, that, as we're all aware, technology changes. And if you're not focused on, what's coming next and making sure that, digital representations of things are being converted, aren't degraded, your digitized documents can degrade over time. Our work with the Connecticut Digital Archive is ensuring that you don't have to think about that stuff. Essentially, if you have material in your Connecticut Collections database, the digital preservation piece is baked into the cake. Go ahead, Diane, you have something you want to add here. You need to unmute.
Thought it when I hit mute too. Okay. Just to say, and I know you said it, but just kind of to reiterate with some things, you do not have to make your collections public in general. Talking about the portal, talking about CTDA, you do not have to make them public. And like Amherst was just starting to say with the digital archive, even if you're not public, your media file will still go to CTDA. Mm-hmm. And there is a section where it will just kind of be in the back in the dark. It won't be public, but it's still being preserved. Because I know that's a concern for a lot of people. So I just wanted to double throw that out there.
Thanks. Yeah. And, so I've talked about the digital preservation piece. This is something that basically you don't have to worry about, but it's a best practice that we're basically taking care of for you, that not every collections management system will do for you. And I think this is especially important for smaller institutions that, we don't have the resources to think about all of these extra things. That's why this is sort of built into the system, because we're mission driven, we're not profit driven. The last thing that I wanted to say here is because the Connecticut Digital Archive is our state's digital preservation repository, it is also the state's hub for a system called the Digital Public Library of America, or the DPLA. Some of you may have explored this. It's basically an online research portal that aggregates digital content, digitized content from libraries and other repositories, museums all across the United States, and makes them searchable in one place. What this means for you is that if you have a collection item that you join Connecticut Collections, you're all on board, you get your data in or you input it, you make something public, that automatically gets that public collection record, gets into the CTDA where it's discoverable statewide. A lot of researchers in Connecticut know about the CTDA and can find your material that way. Or maybe someone in California or, Iowa is searching on the DPLA for, quilts, and they could find a quilt in your collection that way. It just means that your material is more discoverable to a much wider audience than you would necessarily be able to reach by making just your collections searchable on their own as an island. And I just want to say we've been getting some questions in the chat about data migration. We will be going over that in this presentation. I also talked about the consortium aspect of this, and I think this is really important and another thing that really sets us apart. So we're a part of what is known as the Connecticut Collections Alliance, which is a group of statewide digital projects across Connecticut that are working together to make sure that digital cultural heritage is preserved properly and made accessible to the public. So our aims, like yours, are public access and caring for the stuff that that constitutes our common cultural heritage. Thanks especially to work that Connecticut Humanities has done. We have ourselves, as well as some of these other groups around the state, have really been working together and ensuring that all of our systems, we've mentioned the Connecticut Digital Archive, but there's another content aggregator for archival finding aids called Connecticut's Archives Online that's based out of Western Connecticut State University. There's the Connecticut State Library. There's some digital projects that Connecticut Humanities is working on. The Connecticut Collections is a piece of this larger digital infrastructure around the state of Connecticut. And that means that we're all working on a common goal. It means increased discoverability for your collections through places like CTDA and Connecticut's Archives Online, but it also ensures that your collection is not an island, that you are a part of something larger. And I also, there's the digital piece of that. We're all kind of interoperable, software-wise, but there's also a human side to that. Being a part of a user consortium can be really helpful. I mentioned the ongoing learning and training that Diane and Dana are able to do. We'll come out to your site and help you train your volunteers. We will bring you together with other Connecticut Collections users so you can talk amongst yourselves and learn from one another. And I think that this work, when you're sitting in your collections room trying to figure out where everything is, it can be a lonely endeavor. And I think that being a part of something with other people can be a really positive thing for people individually and for an organization. So that's one of our hopes with the project, that kind of meaningful engagement and ongoing learning, which are the things that we're really here to support. Dan, I think this is over to you, right?
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of questions have been around this in the chat too, which I get. It's the bottom line. Like, what does this even cost? Right. That's a really good question. It is based on a sliding scale, like we said earlier. So the annual fee can be anywhere from $300 to $2,500 per year. It's based on your annual operating budget. It covers like the server space. It covers support and maintenance of the actual site itself. It includes the technical support, includes all these educational resources, which, we do the office hours every month and we have special topics every now and again, but they're all recorded and they're available to you through YouTube, like a YouTube channel dedicated to Connecticut Collections members. We also have a monthly newsletter too with interesting topics, which is always fun to read and be part of. And then migration fees, you all have asked. And they really do vary. It really depends on the data. It depends on the format the data's in. It's a one-time fee, and it only happens when you first initiate, you sign up with Connecticut Collections, and it applies only if you're bringing in data from another source or another system. So that could be in whatever form really it is. Past Perfect, a lot of it comes in XML, a lot like their exported reports from Past Perfect. If you're using Past Perfect, it could be Excel, it could be CSV, which is Excel basically. It really depends on what kind of data it is and how clean it is. Diane and I both like data. I tend to work with databases a lot, so I've been able to clean a few this year. I've pulled a few out of Access, so if Access is something you use, it's something we can discuss, but it really is a case-by-case basis, so it's something we'd have to talk with you individually about. That's part of the initial application process, just to give you a heads up with that. But we're more than willing to have a consultation and discuss the migration costs and what that looks like. And as Amber said, mentioned before with our partnerships and whatnot, under a lot of the Connecticut Humanities grants, some of these costs are eligible for as expenses. So you could spend grant money on some of these parts of the process.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are not the funder, so that is something you'd want to talk to your grants officer about. But Connecticut Humanities has been incredibly supportive of this project. And like if you have operating support funds left over, I don't know who would, but if you are still working on spending down that particular grant, both the migration and the annual fee are eligible expenses that you could charge to that grant.
And our goal is always to just help everyone, but especially the smaller institutions that are a lot of volunteer based, maybe one person's paid, even maybe part-time. It's to offset those costs, right? So like realistically, it doesn't cost $300 per person per year. It costs a lot more than that, right? But that's why it's based on a sliding scale. So everybody gets to be part of this. That's the nature of Connecticut Collections. So
we're mission driven, not profit driven. So I want to say one more thing about migration, since this is something that has come up a lot in the chat so far. One of the things that we're working on and hoping we'll be able to do is to start doing some of the migration fee right now is basically a pass-through fee that we pay directly to the software developer. It's assessed one time. It's just a one-time fee. You pay it, we take it from you, we give it to the folks at Whirligig, and they do finish the data migration. So with Dana on board and more sort of human resources devoted to the system, one of our priorities has really been bringing those migration costs down, and for folks who have very simple migrations, potentially eliminating that cost by helping you clean up your data and migrate it in-house. So this is something that we're not doing yet, but it's an ambition of ours because we know that migration fee can be really prohibitive, especially for smaller organizations or if you haven't budgeted for it. So I just want to mention that as something that we're looking toward, especially now that we have more staff on the project. So we had some questions about breakdown, and oh wow, that really did not format properly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's fine on my screen.
Oh, is it? The stuff
well, no,
here?
it's weird on this. On my
yeah.
other screen, it's fine.
Why don't you talk through the
Sure. So this is
Dana, and I'll see if I can fix this.
Yeah, no worries. This is basically just
it's on the CLHO webpage as well to go back and look at it. But yeah, go ahead.
So as you can see, I mean, you can read them. I mean, $300 a year is for anybody up to $50,000, your annual operating budget. $50,001 to $100,000 is $500, and then $100,001 to $200,000 is $1,000, and then so on and so forth up to when you get to over $500,000. We could all be so lucky that we make that, right? Like in a year with your annual operating budget, it's $2,500 a year. So this range again down below is $300 to $2,500. And now we kind of compared it to, and you can see below, I mean, really, a lot of people are familiar with Past Perfect, which is why we discussed it. And Past Perfect is, they put all their prices online. So, I mean, I can provide links if anybody's interested. I can put them in the chat later. But you can go on, you can actually get estimates for how much it would cost you to not only to get like just the software itself to download on one computer, and then it changes with the number of users. It's very much done a la carte. So these are just guesstimates, and these are things that Amherst had researched and I had researched to just give you an idea of what it looks like. Past Perfect is a perfectly good collections management system, but I only use the web-based one because that's sort of what that's what we do, right? We're web oriented, so that's where a lot of these numbers are coming in. So the difference in prices, really, as you can see, is $300 to $2,500, and Past Perfect can be anywhere from $870 to $2,245. And then we talk a lot about the public access part of it, but I think what I wanted to say really, and you can't see it over there, but the numbers I broke down for comparison, like the web-based version of Past Perfect offers the cloud-based collections management system for a startup fee of $1,620, and then annually you would pay $1,245 for hosting, maintenance, and support. That's if you already own the software. So if you already have Past Perfect, if you came out without any Past Perfect, right, it would be a startup fee of $2,490 regardless of your operating budget, and then an annual fee of $1,245 a year. The package is also capped at 10 users, unlimited records, and 100 gigabytes of storage. We offer 250 gigabytes of storage. and also unlimited records. Tech support is not included, and it is, Past Perfect is designed mainly for museums, and has a focus on like item level description, which makes it a little more challenging for organizations that are not familiar with archival and methods and managing their archival collections. So those are like really the only differences. But I really would say, I'll provide the links. They do a cost estimate for the web-based one, and it's really interesting to go in there and just see what that would look like for you. We try to make it easy, so it's just like you get all the information up front.
Great. Thanks, Dana.
Yeah.
I'll circulate a PDF version of these slides afterward if we want. Maybe I can get that to Emily to go up in the follow-up email, where these columns clearly did not translate when I downloaded this from Google. So I realize it's impossible to read. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some current initiatives. As I think you've probably gotten the gist of, we're always trying to work on and improve the system, especially based on input that we get from our users, but also our ambitions as a mission-driven organization to support museums and cultural heritage institutions across Connecticut, especially the smaller organizations that don't have as many resources. So we currently have a multi-year grant from the NHPRC that I mentioned before that helped us redo the public portal. That was kind of the first step of it, and improving the archival functionality of the system, both on the back end and on the public display of finding aids and other ways of accessing archival information. The phase of the project that we're working on now, and that is available to any Connecticut Collections user, and I mention this because some of you may become Connecticut Collections users during the period of this grant. We have funding to provide a total of about 25 organizations who are Connecticut Collections users, support from a traveling archivist from the Traveling Archivist Program of Conservation Connection and the Connecticut State Library, to provide direct assistance with that person, training on what a finding aid is and how to make your archival collections more accessible to the public. And then some ongoing support to help you work in Connecticut Collections to create finding aids in the system. This is the funding that also has allowed us to, or is allowing us to, in the next month or so, build that software connector with Connecticut's Archives Online, the finding aid aggregator out at WestCon. So we're always looking for grant opportunities and other funding opportunities to improve the functionality of the system and bring more features to you. We also, through our current partnership grant from Connecticut Humanities, which has supported a lot of improvements as well as increased staffing on the project, we have some additional training opportunities for users coming up. We always do in-house training for our new users and ongoing users. Anyone can really attend. We've been doing a lot of these virtually, but we have some funds right now to bring folks from Whirligig, Seth Kaufman, the person who wrote the software, to come to Connecticut and give some in-person trainings as well, which we're hoping to do this fall. So this is just an example of some of the ways that we continue trying to support our community of users and offer opportunities for you to learn the system, have ongoing learning in the system, increase your capacity, help you train your volunteers, help you learn more about, become a power user, and to do that in community with other users as well. So we're really grateful for these grants, which have allowed us to grow in these ways. Am I doing this? I can say you probably want to kick the tires, right? Go ahead, Diane.
We do have a sandbox, so you can log in and check it out yourself, go play with it. There's a lot of faux data in there. Some of it's based on real data. It's from my old original, not cleaned up data from Fairfield. So there's a lot of stuff that you can try to see how you would clean that stuff up and how you would arrange things. Go in and try it out. So the URL is just like on the top, sandbox.ctcollections.org. The username's administrator. For any of you that have been on there before, the password has changed. It is now Trilon39, all lowercase. No spaces or anything. Just go ahead and pop in and see what's there and just play with it. You can add stuff, delete stuff, edit stuff, whatever you want to do. It's not real, so you can play with it however you want to test it out.
And I'd encourage you to go to the public portal too at connecticutcollections.org to, just sort of see what a researcher would experience if they were trying to find something about, collections here in Connecticut. Dana?
Yeah, so I'm sure you're all interested, right? I mean, that's why you're here. So what's next? We've changed the application process a bit this year for you all to make it a little bit easier for you all actually and spend more time with you to understand your needs. So like I said, we have initial consult with us. It could be either me or Diane. It might be both of us. And it helps us understand like what your needs are and allows you to ask any questions you want to ask, like that maybe might be specific to your collection. You might feel are specific to your collection. This is a better idea of who you are and why you're interested in joining and what you want to bring. And yeah, and we can tell you a little bit more about the system and spend time with you because that's very important to us. Like seriously, email us whenever you'd like. We also have a new streamlined process like this year for applications. So we'll be taking them several times a year instead of just annually. We usually just took them once a year, but we're going to be breaking it up a little bit more. So people who are coming in without any sort of management system or maybe don't have a lot of records that are digitized already and would like to just start with an empty slate, we're going to be doing those more often than the migrations. But migrations will be happening like twice a year. And then applications either 3 to 4 times per year, the blank system. So that's something we can discuss though at a consultation. Our emails there, Diane and I both monitor this email box all the time. You might receive emails from us individually after the initial point of contact, but we would always mention that in our email. Mine's just my name, Dana@clho.org, and Diane is Diane@clho.org. So I just want to let you know there's no confusion there. But yeah, and the application basically is a Google form. As you can see below, there's a screenshot of it. And that's how it works. So the first step is talking to us though. So we'd like to talk to you all.
Yeah, I mean, the idea here is to just have a conversation with you initially, make sure we understand your needs, and then point you to the proper application and process for you, depending on whether you're going to be migrating data or not.
And if you're interested too, we can even walk you through the application a little bit because, sometimes there's confusion in how to answer some of the questions or just to make anything clear, like our time is your time. So like, just let us know what you need.
Great. So for more information, you can visit the League website. You can explore the public portal at ctcollections.org. And as Dana just said, the best thing to do is reach out and email Dana and Diane at ctco@clho.org.
And we had some questions in the chat that I want to talk about, but also Brenda has her hand raised. So Brenda, what was your question?
My question is, first of all, I'm Brenda Gear, Vice Chair of Eastern Pequots, Vice Chairwoman. I wasn't sure if you guys worked with any tribes doing it, archiving.
We haven't done it yet, but we would love to.
Well, the reason why I ask is because this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, but it's been hard trying to find that mechanism on how to do it. Everything else took priority, to be honest with you. So we've been really looking into kind of digitizing some of our historical documents and, just records in general. So I'd be very interested. Maybe we could sit down and, get a meeting together. Because this is something that it looks like I apologize that I was late. I was running late on another meeting, but, it sounds exactly what we're looking to do is what you're talking about. Which is, I'm so intrigued now. And I'm excited for maybe the opportunity to start working with you folks. That's why I was questioning whether or not you worked with any tribes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we haven't done it yet, but that doesn't mean we can't. I mean, like we define what we're able to do, right? It's our decision.
Right.
And because you folks, we've worked with several ethnic heritage institutions, that are like 501c3s, but I mean, the tribes would certainly, I mean, we don't sort of like
advertise or whatever. Yeah.
Well, no, but we haven't set really strong parameters on who can work with us, because we're figuring that anyone who wants to be a part of Connecticut Collections probably belongs in Connecticut Collections, so we haven't done a lot of gatekeeping. We would really love to talk with you more, and I would suggest that you set up a time to chat with Dana and Diane. Brenda, it would be great to learn a little bit more about your needs and how we could help you meet them.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely follow up.
Thank you so much for being here. And there's a recording, so if you missed anything at the top, don't worry about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Haesung has a, I don't know if I've said your name properly, but I know you have a question about other alphabets, non-Roman alphabets. Would you like to unmute and ask that question live? Can you unmute yourself, Haesung? Haesung, you're muted. We can't hear you. Okay, let's get to the some of the questions. Oh,
there
go
you go.
ahead. There you
You're
go.
good.
You got it.
I have 7 decades of information and about 6 decades of computerized data from late 60s. And I have been working on bridging culture between East and West. And I have represented social science, US social science at UNESCO, developing world information systems. I really welcome what you are doing. The Connecticut history of agents, almost 200 years old, and I couldn't find anything under current retrieval system, anything on East Asia, only some on China. And this Asian American issue is globally, because of the China's interest, US diplomatic issues of North Korea and East Asia and India, this is becoming increasingly important. And I'd like to know who else in Connecticut has worked on Asia. I'm a cross-cultural research. I taught at the law school, and I'm an artist, information scientist, and above all, gender roles. Got involved in earliest gender role. And I just want to know who else is interested in legacy data, agent data, non-Roman character control, and integrated interdisciplinary data for not only research, for public use, for community use. I'm a recipient of NEH or Connecticut Humanities Council grants in the past, and NSF. So I have been following this, but I have retired. I'm 94 years old, and I'm wrestling with unique or varied database I have created, and I don't. So I need your traveling archivist to help too. If someone can come and see, because I have nuggets in a various field, but it's very different from some of your need, because, and I would love to get involved in some of your portals.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there are several questions baked into yours. One is the question about legacy data and what the process would be to bring data that was created in earlier decades into a system such as this. There's also the character and translation side of your question as well. And I don't know if you're thinking about sort of utilizing the system for yourself personally, or, if there's an organization that you're working with. I mean, I don't know if Dana and Diane have anything to add, but this sounds like a phone call to me. It seems like there are a lot more questions here than we can sort of address directly in the session.
My specialty is more data quality control, how to control systematic bias, using recorded data, but also I'm interested in using art. I have been using it. I'm an artist as well. So I guess I'm covering things that what museum is interested in, a library is interested in, art museum is interested in, and women's studies people are interested in. I don't know how to find some friends. I mean,
well, I think you should come to more of our programs. You should definitely consider reaching out to Emily about membership and finding ways that we could help you. We have membership that, like over 200 museums and cultural institutions around the state. So, you know, we like to think of ourselves as sort of the network for history and museums across the state of Connecticut. So that's something
would
that,
really
quite apart from the data, we can help you meet those folks.
Yeah, I would appreciate, I am the intellectual kind of metadata end of it, but I need a technical support because who is more familiar with the latest software and latest way of handling.
Yeah, well, you know, I think we could go really down the rabbit hole this one, but I'd like to kind of bring our conversation offline and follow up with
I
you
would
directly.
really
So
appreciate that.
yeah, so if you can reach out to Emily and the Connecticut Collections team, I already have some folks at the Connecticut State Library that I want to connect you to who are also interested in the sort of legacy descriptions and, you know, issues about bias in archival and museum description that I think you would have a lot to talk with about. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
people-
for coming. Really
Yeah.
glad to meet you.
This is exciting, and I really need some help from all of you.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I'm Korean American. So if you remember Korean American, and
Yes.
I am a matriarch of 4 generations. We have about
Wonderful.
many coasts all around. If you pay attention to another coast, they all, most of them belong to me. They are internationally active.
Great.
Based in New Haven since '60s. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure we can get to some of the other questions that have come through. So we'll definitely follow up with you. Deborah had a question about the transcribe feature on the portal. Diane, could you field a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Deborah, the transcribe button isn't 100% up yet on the user side, like on the back end side, but it will be there. What it will do, it actually is like an example of it is up on the portal. So if you go to the portal, you can hit the transcribe button and you'll kind of see what's going to go on. If you have documents that you have digitized and are up, you're basically going to crowdsource people to transcribe those for you. The little box to type it in, it'll save the project so people can come back and pick up where somebody else left off, that kind of thing. The transcriptions do not go live into your records. You will be able to see them, but then you're going to have to go in and basically vet them and make sure it makes sense. And you can go in and then copy those back into your record. So it's a little bit of work on your end, but much better sometimes to get that whole crowd working on something versus you guys having to take the time individually on things. And so we had a couple of questions about migrations too that I just wanted to touch on, because we had people asking about Past Perfect and about Excel. Yes, what we're going to do with this new system of people joining, like Dana said, talk to us. We'll have you probably send us a sample of your data. We'll take a look at it. We're going to try to do a lot more prep for folks on the tech end ahead of time this year. So we can recommend what fields need to be mapped where. We can touch base with you on where you want a certain field to go, things like that. So you can do it from any instance like that. Excel is fine. Past Perfect is fine. We have experience with both. So even something else that's odd, don't hesitate to ask. And we can go from there. And somebody else had a question.
There was a question about manuals and training. So we've developed our own manual for Connecticut Collections that is available on our website. If you go to clho.org/CT collections. There's also, if you're looking for like really, you know, in the weeds technical documentation, Collective Access, the folks who the software is, they have a repository on GitHub that you can check out. You can go to the Collective Access website, which I think is like collectiveaccess.org. And they have a lot of documentation that they have made for the software itself. So if you're looking for something more technical, you want to start like getting into the meat of the system and the code, you have access to that as well because it is open source. But for training purposes, the manual that we developed is more for like how to utilize the system as a user. you know, a training material you could, you know, give to your volunteers to help them understand, you know, where to put what in what fields, et cetera. Is there more that you want to say?
Specific to our instance? Yeah, specific to Connecticut Collections, rather than just because since collective access is so editable and you can, you know, change it however you want when you're setting up your system overall. GitHub and that site will give you like the basics. Our manual will be very specific to how ours is set up. So if you want stuff for you and for your volunteers, that's where to go. We do have some upgrades taking place in the system this year, so the manual will be redone, but what's there now is still very accurate to what we have in our system currently. And I was going to say, Karen had a question about backing up. You can back up locally if you want. There is not like a button to do it. There's kind of like a little way to go about doing it. Minnesota has folks doing it all the time, and I've talked to her about it a little bit. So if you wanted to do that, I can talk to her and get a little bit more of an idea of what she's having folks do on her end. But yes, you can.
Yeah, I mean, backing up your own data is a smart thing to do and a best practice, and we recommend that people do it. So that's a great idea to take a look at what Minnesota is recommending to its users and have that available for ours as well. You know, I think that we're in, you know, as I think Dana mentioned at the top, you know, we're one state among at least two in the United States, and there are several provinces in Canada. This project here in Connecticut was actually modeled on NovaMuse, a project out of Nova Scotia Museums. And there are several states and provinces that kind of keep in touch with one another about these sort of statewide, you know, collections projects that are akin to ours. And that's always good because in addition to you being a part of a user community, you get to benefit from the knowledge of these groups in other places, many of whom are, you know, it's kind of like the league's counterpart in Minnesota, the Minnesota Association of Local History, Local and History Museum. I forget what it stands for. Anyway, they're like the Minnesota League. And Diane's got a doppelganger there. I've got a doppelganger there.
Right.
And, you know, we have monthly meetings with them. They also work directly with Whirligig. So we're always bouncing ideas off of one another and really trying to, you know, help. There's, you know, the education in this system goes beyond more formal and even like informal trainings like the office hours. You know, we really designed this both to be a tool for people to use that would really help, especially smaller museums in Connecticut, but also, you know, not just help you get intellectual control over your collections, but learn what that means, right? We're all in a process of ongoing learning about like, what's the best way to manage your museum collections? What kind of data you should be inputting? The same thing with archives. And a part of our mission is to help you learn those things as well, if it's not something that you're professionally trained in. You know, so I think that there's that learning piece is really baked into the whole purpose of what this project is about, and creating a community where you can talk to other museums, large and small, about your collections issues and get ideas from one another. Are there any other questions? I realize we're a few minutes over time. Great job, team.
I put it in the chat, but just to say it out loud too, if anyone wants to get our monthly newsletter, just like a big one sheet thing, just email us at ctco@clho.org to request and give us your email, and we'll add you to the list.
Great. Well, thanks again to Emily, Dana, and Diane for this great presentation. To all of you for your interest and for being here and learning and sharing with us. Again, the thing to do if you're interested is send an email to Dana and Diane, and they will talk to you about next steps. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Stay dry.
The sun's out now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.